Welcome back to the Loss Prevention News Network. I'm Joe LaRocca, and we're here today with Debbie Maples, Vice President of Global Loss Prevention and Corporate Security with Gap Inc. Debbie, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So, Debbie, today's session is entitled Active Shooter Response, Are You Ready? It's one of the sessions you're giving here at the LP conference, and we wanted you to bring it to the viewers ahead of the actual presentation in light of the tragedy that occurred over the weekend in Orlando and just the multitude of incidents that we've seen around the country. Debbie has some fantastic information because active shooter events, whether it's in retail or restaurant locations, present such a unique challenge. Customers are present and they need to be protected. Colleagues and employees may behave differently under that stressful situation that they experience, and your ability to hide or run or resist in some way is an important understanding before an incident actually takes place. So with all of that said, and I know it didn't do the session any justice at all, tell us a little bit about what it is you're presenting at this conference.
So really, the Are You Ready is the challenge to the loss prevention industry. There is no time more imperative than right now to ensure that readiness is at its height. So today, this session was designed to be interactive, designed to support organizations that may be in formation of their emergency preparedness or active shooter specific training. We will be doing live polling. We're the only session here at the NRF that is doing live polling. So this will give us, like, in the moment benchmark. So some of the content is really to look at where we are as a country. So most of the data that I'll be sharing with the team today is around U.S. statistics and really what this trend is looking like in the United States. And we've seen the impact globally. We've learned from Paris, we've learned from Mumbai, we've learned a number of situations where mass shooting events have occurred. So we'll look at that data and then we'll challenge ourselves in terms of our readiness. Do we have any form of emergency preparedness training? Have we advanced our training to be very specific about active shooter or active threat? So with that, we'll go into where are we now? Have we incorporated drills into the advancement of our program? Do we have videos? I'll be sharing Gap Inc.'s field loss prevention video, which is,
what a treat.
Yeah, so we'll be sharing that, which is very exciting for us. We've created 2 videos, and I'll allow the audience to contact me if they'd like to really help look at what they could do within their organizations. But really the session is about where are we now and are we ready? And we'll poll, and hopefully that will be able to inform the attendees who are struggling with convincing their leadership teams about this topic. And for those who are well on their way, it will give a good benchmark for where they are and compared to the rest of the team.
That's fantastic. It was one of my questions, and how do you get senior management to buy into a program? But before we get that, just rewind a hair. With all these incidents, there was the shooting of the singer last weekend on Friday night, then the incident in Orlando on Saturday evening. There's been other shootings since then. And, you know, the question's out there, right? There's a definition that we have from Homeland Security of an active shooter or a mass shooting, and that's different, or there's a different equation for an incident that might be a robbery of an armored car outside your store and bullets come through the window. How does DHS define an active shooter incident, and are the procedures the same for both?
Yeah, I think an individual actively engaged in killing people or a person, that's DHS's definition, and that pretty much corresponds with FEMA. It corresponds with several state legislative definitions of active shooter. I think that when we think about all of these threats that involve gun shootings, we have to think about what is our response. And what we have done within Gap Inc. is we've really developed a proportionate response to this unfortunate trend. And what we train our folks is this, is that you will default to your highest level of training. Yeah. And so run, hide, fight in our organization, we've been on this journey for several years, and we didn't initially roll out with that nomenclature. We went with lock up and hide. It was very simple for our teams to remember that there's just a couple of things that we want you to do. Since then, we've evolved our training. So it's no longer just lock up and hide. There's also the potential to barricade, turn off the lights of your, office or stockroom or wherever you are at, wherever you have the opportunity to do that. Turn your phones off and fight if you have to. And that's tricky.
Right.
That's tricky. But because we default to our highest level of training, if we don't give that level of detail or information, we know that people will freeze. And if they freeze, there will be a larger impact in terms of loss of life. So whether it's a robbery or whether it's an event that's across the mall or across the center or across the street, or in San Bernardino's case, 4 miles down the road, we still take the same action. Because if the situation has not been resolved, we know that it's going to be super important to keep our people safe. And our people are our customers and our employees. So lock up and hide and doing whatever it takes to remain safe is a super priority, and it corresponds with our values in terms of safety. The number one priority of our organization is safety. Right. So for us, the response is pretty much the same. We drill our teams on what will you do. In fact, we've had loss prevention development meetings, including our most entry-level agents and store detectives and guards, where we are asking them, what will you do? How will you support your leadership? Keep in mind, not all of our stores have loss prevention personnel,
right, sure.
But there's a great army out there that can be supportive to our leadership.
Right.
And lock up and hide and knowing how to go into the protocol and the process that we want to keep our people safe is just super important for us.
That's fantastic. In my past, the way that I've approached active shooter, and it is such a sensitive discussion with the C-level, even the management team, definitely with employees coming in. We need to think about these incidents as a potential fire in the store. It's unlikely there's going to be a fire, but when the alarm sounds, you're going to leave the store, you're going to take the people around you down the fire exit. It's up to you as a store person. You know the back hallways, you know the ways to get out, you know where to meet, reunify, check in. And I know that's a very simplistic point of view, but does an active shooter policy, as you share with other companies, how do you get management on board? How might you suggest someone that has nothing today broach the subject and come up with some sort of
I think that, or I feel that there are terrific tools out there. So we engaged early in this journey experts. So Jeremiah Hart, who is the SWAT commander and National Institute trainer, Dr. Larry Barton, who's a crisis management expert. We have consulted with them over and over again, because really forming our program and being able to influence really what was this impact going to look like for Gap Inc. And I know this is a journey for every organization. Initially, or at least in 2007, it was a harder conversation. But I think what we've learned along the way is that negligence is no longer an excuse.
Right.
The public expects us to know what to do, know what to say to our customers who may be impacted, and act. We have this duty to care, we have this duty to warn, and we have this duty to supervise. And when we look at all those responsibilities as an organization, then we have to move, we have to go into action. So there is no, I think I said that in the beginning.
Right.
We have this responsibility and obligation to be ready and to make sure that our stores and our people know what to do. Annual training, whether it's during Emergency Preparedness Month, Loss Prevention Awareness Weeks, monthly self-auditing, new hire orientation, drilling in our corporate environments and our DC environments are all a part of keeping ourselves ready and knowing that we have to evolve.
Right.
What we were doing in 2007, we've upped the ante.
Sure.
We're doing a whole lot more today because we know that the crisis is greater than it was in 2007. From 2011 to 2014, active shooter events tripled.
Wow.
Tripled. So if you are forming your program, DHS, FEMA, gunviolencearchive.org, of course, the FBI. They've done a terrific study on these shootings. They give great collateral. If you don't want to customize, there is public information that you can leverage to begin your journey and go from there. So that would be my advice to organizations who are just beginning.
That's fantastic. And as you've rolled this out, and it sounds like it's just become part of your culture and the way you talk with the organization, what's the feedback been from your employees in the stores?
Our employees love this program, and I'll tell you, we just rolled, when I talk about evolving, we've just rolled to corporate and DC environments. So we always had a basic emergency preparedness, but now we have a video customized for our corporate and our field people. So our employees appreciate this. They know that they can impact their families. We have 134,000 employees, Joe.
Wow.
If each employee shared this information with 4 people in their most trusted circle, their spouse, their partner, their children, and those 4 people shared with maybe 2 people, because the information is diluted,
sure,
we can impact over 1 million people. So our employees are welcoming of this information. Our customers are welcoming of this information. When they've been involved in a lockup and hide incident, we've had about 60 this year. I think when I formed the deck for this presentation, it was 58, and we've had 2 more. Yeah. So about 60 this year. We know that the feedback will come in. And the majority of our feedback is super positive. They're blogging on social media. They're sending letters of appreciation. We're getting communications coming directly into our founders. So it is very, very valued and super appreciated.
Fantastic. And as you watch these incidents unfold on television and you hear the accounts from store employees and see the video from inside actual incidents, you can just imagine how scary that is for someone and the fear that runs through their body. But there's that second part of the equation, which is the initial incident, but then as they're maybe hiding, sheltering in place, or barricading themselves in the office or a bathroom, you have law enforcement that comes through, and the incident really isn't over for that person yet, because now law enforcement shows up. What do you tell the employees as law enforcement shows up? What should they expect?
Right, so we tell them, you're going to need to raise your hands, you're going to need to cooperate. We want you to verify that it's in fact law enforcement that's knocking on the door. We don't want you to just open. You can call 911. We have a Global Security Command Center. You can call that number as well, and we can be in contact with law enforcement to ensure that there's not an imposter that is posing as law enforcement and we're moving ourselves into danger. So we show them, we demonstrate in our videos, this is what you can expect. You are going to need to cooperate, and it's going to be okay.
Right.
If we get to that point, it's
Right.
going to be okay.
Right. And you're always a victim in those situations, and you're a potential witness. Maybe identify something, the number of shots, or what you've seen or what you've heard. Now, you mentioned some very valuable resources and people that you've worked with, like Dr. Larry Barton. He's fabulous. You mentioned the DHS program and tied to FEMA. The DHS program is free, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
And FEMA, what's the connection there, and how does that work?
Again, it's looking at local community emergency response and how you can engage preparedness, how you can ready yourselves, and if you're not prepared to be that expert, there's certainly resources available to you to get that information and to be able to draw in that community of support for your organization or for your community.
And there's really, in that case, there's really no cost to the retailer. Those resources are generally free. Obviously, every retailer will have a different way that they approach it. If they were going to look outside and go to somebody like Jay Hart or the National Institute, or they're going to go to Dr. Barton, is there something, some way you might approach the situation? You obviously don't go from 0 to 60 right away. Is there a sort of an incremental step to get there and before you go outside?
Yeah, that was our process, really. Our early days, 2007, partnership was super important. So that was really collaborating with not only our internal business partners, but experts to educate us on what are the best practices. And we feel as though we've come a long way. We didn't start where we are today. It has been a very, very fluid process of continuing this journey.
Right.
And where we are today, and we're proud of where we are. We think that we've done a good job, but we know there's probably even more to do, especially when you see the statistics of these events tripling.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think it's, you don't go from 0 to 60. It's a journey,
Right.
and collaborating with experts as well as your legal teams, your communications teams, your HR, your ER, all of these voices. We have 5 brands.
Right.
Having all of those key stakeholders and their voices as a part of what's best for our organization has really served us well.
Right. That's fantastic. And Debbie, I know we could talk about this for hours and hours. It's such a intricate topic, and it's so timely, especially given what's going on around the world right now. Good luck with your session today.
Thank you.
And this was fantastic. Thanks for sharing the information with the LPNN viewers. This is Debbie Maples. She's the Vice President of Global Loss Prevention and Corporate Security with Gap Inc. She is an expert on these topics, and the Gap organization is always right there with helping other retailers to understand the business better. And I'd strongly encourage all of you to take Debbie up on the offer. If you need help or you're looking for some contacts, she'll make herself available. Also, the DHS website, dhs.gov, has some free resources. Mm-hmm. There's really no excuse why somebody can't look this up and start at least the initial process of rolling out a plan. So I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to the Loss Prevention News Network. I'm Joe LaRocca. You can follow me at LaRoccaJ on Twitter. And don't forget to send Amber and I your questions at #LPNN for this session or the next one. We'll see you soon.